Hello and welcome to the Third Sector. I'm your host, Tamara Brinkman. In our societies, there are three sectors: the public, the private, and the nonprofit. And it's that third sector that we're here to talk about today. My guests on today's show are Nikka Alcorn from Good News Habitat for Humanity and Roxie Deer, Executive Director for Richmond Neighborhood Restoration. Joining me first is Nikka Alcorn. Nikka, thank you so much for joining us and being on the Third Sector. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, we're so grateful that you gave us some of your time. Nikka is the Community Outreach Manager for Good News Habitat for Humanity. And let's just start with, give us the history of the organization, kind of where it started, when it started, and to what it is today.
Sure. Be glad to. Good News Habitat was originally founded, Good News Habitat International was originally founded in the 1970s. I believe it was 1976 to be exact. And our local organization has been here since 1990. So we're going on about 32 years in existence here in Richmond, Indiana. However, we do serve Wayne County, Union County, and Randolph. So It's not just our local vicinity, but surrounding counties.
Okay. What is the mission of their organization?
Our mission, to be exact, I brought it here because I didn't want to...
Nothing wrong with reading.
Right. It is... Seeking to put God's love into action, Habitat for Humanity brings people together to build homes, communities, and hope.
Okay. So going into that just a little bit more, what are some of your goals for the coming year or two?
What we'd like to see is to build 1 or 2 homes a year, maybe not from the ground up, but to go in and to restore maybe existing homes with building costs being what they are now. I don't know if you've had any renovations done recently, but the costs are quite extensive. So what we'd like to do is find a couple homes, again, 1 or 2 a year, maybe work up to 3. I'd love that. But we just closed on one originally where we were able to obtain a good home with good bones. The structure was there, but we were able to go in, renovate, and we have a new partner family in there, single mother with 2 children.
Oh, great.
And they're just elated to own their own home and to have the stability and just make it a place of their own.
That's wonderful. How do you guys go about selecting the homes that you're going to renovate or take on as a project, or how do they come to you? What does that look like?
Well, with the organization being based on the principles of Christ, one, we put faith first. God opens the doors, and He provided us a home there. The home that I was speaking of that we had closed on right after Thanksgiving was sold to us at a very, very low cost. My understanding, it was before I came aboard, so unfortunately I didn't get to see the beginning of that, but I did see the end result, and it was sold to us at a low cost, and we, our organization went in, we cleaned it out, we basically redid everything, the roof, the windows, painted the siding. It had good bones, good structure, so we were able to save the garage. Right now we have another prospect that Dan Groth, our executive director, is looking into, and one of our board members. So hopefully that will be one we can also get into, restore, and have for another family that needs that.
Okay. So now you mentioned you serve 3 counties.
Yes.
Are you are you working, do you have a home project in each county, or are you just kind of starting with Wayne and then you're expanding out, or how do you guys cover all the three county footprint that you have?
We do not yet have
Okay.
one in each county. I would like to see eventually maybe us building to that. We're kind of in a rebirth phase. Dan Groth, our director, took over, I believe it was July of last year, and I started in October. We have a board secretary, Kathy Ketron, who is part-time. She started in July as well, and then we have an amazing volunteer who comes in on his own time, and again, he's strictly a volunteer, but that's our Gary DeLucio, and he keeps the place organized and does a wonderful job. But we just got a great team, and Dan is in the process of building the board, and so right now we're essentially focusing on the Fairview area. We have a couple grants there from Wayne County Foundation and also H&R Block. So we're kind of focusing in on that area. However, we're not restricted to that area.
Right.
And I believe the potential home that we're kind of looking at now is a little further northwest. So if anyone would like to donate a home, or if you know a home that someone just, if it has, needs some work done to it, but they're, they want to get, take it off their hands.
Reach out to you guys.
That's right. We'll take it.
That sounds good. That sounds good. So I think we've kind of covered a little bit about, it sounds like we got your staff covered there with your that recent listing. And then how's the organization governed?
It's governed by our board of directors.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And there is we're under the umbrella. They have the guidelines of the Habitat International, but it is our local board of directors.
Right. Okay. And then, so you mentioned that I was going to ask you guys how you get funding to do your work, to do the remodeling or rehabilitation, depending on at whatever level the home requires. How do you guys get the funds to do that? I mean, you mentioned a grant from Wayne County Foundation and H&R Block.
Right.
Did that cover all of the funding needs for your projects, or do you have to go in other areas as well?
Those are typically for specific projects. Like I said, that's somewhat isolated in that area, but we have donations, personal donations, business donations. There's also, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Lost my-
That's all right. I guess it's more, you've got public funding, it would seem, or you're
Yes.
looking for private donations from the
Public-private.
public, and you've got grant. How about the materials that you guys use? Do you have to pay those? Do you get them at a special price? Do people donate? Maybe all of the above? I don't know.
They do, actually.
Okay.
We have Lowe's is a big donor. They call us probably monthly, and if they have a skid or a special whatever they want to get rid of, yes.
Okay. Oh, good.
So we have people who donate. The thing is with that right now, we've kind of been restricted. Our restore went out about 3 years ago, so we no longer have that here. So if people want to donate like toilets or things like that, I always refer them to the Eaton store, the Good News Habitat in Eaton, Ohio, or the Newcastle. Right now, our facility, we don't have the room to store that currently.
Ah, got it. Okay. Okay. So tell us, the audience, what would happen if your organization ceased to exist? If you weren't here to do your work in Wayne County, how would that impact our community?
Well, I think most people are aware there's a housing crisis right now. And there's a lot of homelessness. And I didn't realize, before I come aboard, I kind of had my head in the sand, not realizing what was going on in the community. And there are people who are needing housing and affordable housing. And one of our organizations, and that's something I'd really like to get more involved, is advocating for affordable housing. I know rent is out the roof. I have a friend who lives on Grand Boulevard. It's a nice street, but they're paying almost $900 for rent. For a 2-bedroom, 1-bath home. It's a real crisis. And I worked in the mortgage field for 23 years at a local bank here, and I just didn't realize in the last couple years it's getting worse.
Right.
So
then I guess how exactly are you guys, if we don't have habitat here, then what happens to those folks, I suppose? Like,
Right.
how do you support them today that your services, that they would, if you went away, this went away, what goes away?
Well, 1 or 2 homes a year, that's 1 or 2 families that can get housing. Now, obviously, we're not going to save everybody and get them into a home. I would love that. I wish we could. And I'm not going to rule that out. All things are possible. So, with God, but we're humans, and we just need to do our part. As you with your organization, you help people, and if everyone would pitch in and we have a unity, that's what it's going to take. All hands on deck, and getting the word out. Well, and
that's a great place to leave it. I mean, unity and everybody coming together. I mean,
exactly.
We know the more hands will make a bigger difference than just one person's set of hands. So that's going to take us to our time today. But Nikka, I really want to thank you so much for coming on the show and telling. I got to learn some more about Good News Habitat for Humanity, and hopefully you, our viewer, got to learn some more as well. When we come back, Roxie Deer from Richmond Neighborhood Restoration will be with us. Welcome back. Joining me now, Roxie Deer, Executive Director for Richmond Neighborhood Restoration. Thank you so much for joining us on
Thanks
the third
for having
sector.
me.
Well, welcome. So first off, let's just talk about that this is a brand new role for you.
It is. I'm about 90 days in right now, and that just seems like it's flown by. So
I'm sure.
It's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot during that last 90 days.
Yes, I'm sure. It's a little bit like drinking from a fire hose. It's pretty much that would be how it was for me when I started in nonprofit. It's overwhelming.
This role specifically has so many terms that I've never even heard of, and so just the other day I was in a meeting and they said, well, we have to tuck point that house. And under the table, I put a note in my phone that says, look up tuck pointing when you get home. And then I was like, okay, now I feel better. So tips and tricks to learning the lingo.
Right. Well, at least it's new, it's different, and I would imagine challenging.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Well, that's very exciting. Well, let's just talk about Richmond Neighborhood Restoration. Give us the history. When did we have it, and where are we today?
Yeah. So the organization started with a group of dedicated community members in 2014, 2015. And really, it was just them sitting around the table going, there's this beautiful house, let's restore it. And at the table, there were Dr. Jetmore was there, Sean Dingworth from the Art Museum, J.P. Hall, who is an architect for Ball State University and at the time was at Indiana Landmarks, Chad Stegner, who's a real estate, and he does house flipping. So they kind of put this group together, and I call them the Founding Fathers because it was really just a kind of a passion project. They did one, And they found friends along the way. They found volunteers. People were saying, hey, how can we support you? And then they were like, oh, maybe we're on to something here. And so then they applied for a 501c3 status. They had a different executive director at the time who started the foundation for what we have today. They have finished 4 projects. We're working on projects 5 and 6 right now. And the goal is to have both of those done by the springtime. And we'll start projects 7 and 8 pretty soon.
That's exciting. So take us up a little bit. What's the overall mission of the organization? I mean, they obviously grassroots, let's rehab, but what's the mission, since we started from just enthusiasm and passion, as you mentioned it?
So the main mission of R&R is to find historic homes that are about to be torn down, essentially. They're in really bad condition, usually in great neighborhoods, and they're usually the eyesore of the neighborhood. And we can revitalize it. We don't like the term flip because we're doing a little bit more intensive work than just flipping the house. But we restore the home, not to its former glory. We're not we don't preserve the house. We don't keep it the way it was. We make it very modern for today's family to move in. And then the goal is to sell that house and move on to another house in the neighborhood or close by. And what we've seen is the economic impact of flipping one house on a street and turning it from old to new. What that does to the entire neighborhood. So there's a lot of economic impact to what we're doing.
I mean, you could go into that even a little bit more, right? I mean, that helps the other values of homes around there. It takes that eyesore and makes all the houses sort of all look nice, and it makes it a desirable neighborhood that people want to come into. And we want more people to come live in, Richmond and Wayne County, right?
We do. The house we're working on right now, 2237 East Main, or the Hill House as we call it, is right across from Glen Miller Park, where they have the flowers that say it's spring. Right across from there. That house in 1996 was labeled the ugliest house in Wayne County.
Oh my goodness.
And nothing had changed in that house since 96. When we purchased the house, it was actually donated. The city literally said, take it, do something, anything with it. It was piled, and I'm not joking about this when I say from floor to ceiling with trash and junk, and it stunk, and it was nasty. And so we spent days cleaning out that house. We filled 6 giant dumpsters full of trash right there. And now if you go by the house and you look at it, and it's this beautiful black and white structure, and we've done this beautiful work on the inside as well. I can't wait to show the community the inside. And just cleaning it up made it an impact. But now we've gone above and beyond, and we've done even more. And that property had sat empty for almost 10 years. And no one was paying property taxes on it. Nobody was living in it. No one was taking care of it, clearly. And now when we sell that house, somebody will most likely move in from out of town with a great salary, who will invest in the community. They will pay property taxes. And then what's been really cool is neighbors have started taking care of their houses. They're landscaping. They don't want to be the ugliest house on the block now. They have to take care of their own yard. So
nothing
it's been
like
a
little
fun project.
friendly competition, right?
Yes, absolutely.
To get us all to step up our game. So, well, good. That's a good thing.
We love it.
Tell us a little bit about your staff, if you have, because we're nonprofit and you never know what you got, and then how the organization is governed.
So we operate with a board of trustees. We have 8 active trustee members and 1 emeritus member. JP Hall was just named to an emeriti status. I'm the only full-time staff member, which is I'm the janitor, I'm the accountant, I'm the marketing person, everything in between. But
I can feel you on that.
We understand that a little bit. We are blessed. We do work with contractors who do all of the heavy, intensive work for us. When I interviewed, I told the board, I said, I'm not your electrical girl. Like, don't ask me to do that. And they said, we don't want you doing that. But we do hire contractors out for that, and we are so beyond blessed with a group of volunteers that spend every Saturday morning working on these houses that we pick out, and they learn the trade from a skilled tradesman in that failed. So maybe it's flooring. We have somebody in the flooring world come in and teach them how to take care of the floors. Then they do the project.
Okay.
And they have put in thousands of hours into all of our houses, just making it work. And they really are part of my marketing team too, because they get so excited about the work they're doing. They're going out in the community and sharing that.
Spreading the word.
Yeah.
So how do you guys get funding to redo the houses?
Yeah, that's a great question, something we've had to dive into, and every house is different. We work closely with Indiana Landmarks with, they have a 0% interest loan that
Okay.
they work with us on. We also work with community foundations. We have a revolving loan grant through First Bank Richmond that we work with. And then we're privately funded as well. We have lots of private donors who make the annual appeal, or they participate by donating in their own way.
Okay. And then like materials and things like that, do you have to use those funds to purchase? Or are you able to negotiate some donations along the way with any community partners?
Yes, actually right now in the Hill House, we're working with Milestone Contracting. They're going to do the cement stairs and walkway around the house, and that saves us about $15,000
Wow.
in work. And Persaponco Painting, we work with them, and we have lots of contractors who they either like I said, train our volunteers to do the work, or they discount the rate, or they even donate the rate and the cost or labor, whatever it may be. And the really cool thing about living in Richmond, we have a great group of retired professionals who are skilled, and they also dedicate their time to this organization.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So exciting. So, what would happen if the organization ceased to exist in Wayne County, in Richmond? What would be the impact to our community?
A blight. That would be the biggest impact right away. Our goal is that we are eliminating these houses from being destroyed and bringing life back into the community. And we've slowly started to do, the goal is one project a year. We're increasing that. Like I said, we have 2 projects now, and we can get into the second project here in a second. But as we grow the organization, you're going to see a larger impact. You're going to see streets that have multiple projects going at one time. And no one else is going to be able to love on those houses like we can, and at the rate that we can. Individuals can move into a house, and we see this frequently. I mean, people move into a house and they go, oh, this is my dream to flip this house around and do it quickly. We know that life gets in the way, and that they're not able to prioritize painting the front of their house or remodeling the floors, and money gets in the way too, right? We've all seen what happened after 2020 and the cost of inflation and construction cost. And so we're able to do that at a bigger impact and quicker than most groups and individuals as well. So I don't want to see R&R go away, obviously, for my own personal benefit, but for the community as well.
Right. No, I think it's exciting, and if you've had an opportunity to see some of the ones that have been done, I mean, they are pretty neat.
Yeah.
The before and afters are pretty neat. Which, if you don't know where those are, you can, I think, probably find them on your website, I would assume, or email you about that, and we'll put some of that information up on the screen. So you can contact the organization as well as a phone number to reach out to them. So how do you guys... So there are a lot of homes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really neat homes with probably really great historical history in this community. Excuse me, a little frog in the throat. How do you get to the ones that become your project? How do they become your project?
So we work with a lot of community partners. The banks sometimes will call us and say, hey, we foreclosed on this house. We don't want it. Nobody else wants it. Take it off our hands. And we have criteria that each house has to meet, and it's a grading system. And so the banks typically know what we're looking for, and we will do tours of homes and say, this is a great house, but it may be too small of a project, or it may be too big of a project. And we have to have an exit strategy. We have to be able to... We are not at the point yet where we can lose money on a house. And so we will eventually have to get to that point because of how much work some of these houses need. But right now, it's if we are putting a lot of money into a house, we want to be able to recoup that when we sell the house. So that's a big focus for us, is what's the exit strategy. And we don't want to ever invest in one project and then leave it not being able to be sold, and not because it's in an unsafe neighborhood or it's something else.
Right.
We want to make sure that we're making an impact when we sell that house.
Right. So really seeing it from start to finish,
And beyond the finish.
is really, well, I guess completion of the work itself, but really to somebody calling it their home.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's neat. We have just a couple of minutes left, but let's talk about how you've mentioned a lot about the volunteers you have and folks who are skilled trade, and maybe there's some viewers watching today who just are learning about the organization and would love to connect with you in some way. What's the best way for people to get involved if that's, and do you need people?
Yes, we always need more
Okay.
volunteers. We have certain days where we say, okay, if you're really interested in painting, if you don't like painting, we don't want you painting, because
Right.
it just does, it's not going to be fun for you. The work's
Right.
not going to be as great. So we have a volunteer sign up. You can visit our Facebook page and find that, or you can email me at info@rnrinc.org to get on the volunteer list.
Okay, well, that's good. Well, I think that wraps up our time. I feel like we could keep talking
Yeah,
and talking.
all
It's
day.
such an interesting topic and conversation. But anyways, as we wrap up this episode of The Third Sector, I want to thank my guests who joined me today. Earlier in the episode, Nikka Alcorn from Good News Habitat for Humanity, and of course, Roxie Deer from Richmond Neighborhood Restoration. Thank you for joining us. Stay well. We'll see you next time on The Third Sector.